Morning, everybody. I wanted to go ahead and get started here this morning. And before we get into our verse for today, I'm going to actually do a start on a recipe a little bit because the recipe is going to need a little time to cook. And I'm doing a frittata, avocado and olive frittata. And uses 4 organic free-range eggs, 8 sliced olives, tablespoon of organic coconut cream, a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, a couple tablespoons of coconut oil to put in the pan, and then you're topping it with some almond cheese and some avocado slices at the end. So I am beating up the ingredients. Get the oven going there. So I've got the olives, not quite in here yet, but the eggs, seasoning, coconut cream, all that's in here. Getting the olives on top of there. Sorry if the camera angle's a little off this day. Okay. There we go. So added some olives into this. I've already heated a cast iron skillet. When you're doing a frittata, it really works well to use a cast iron skillet because to do this, the traditional method, you are putting it in the oven part of the time. And so with the cast iron skillet, you can just put it right in, not worry about, something getting melted. So put the eggs in the pan. I'm going to top it with a little almond cheese. Just getting enough in there to have a layer on the top. And we'll cook that on the stove top for 3 minutes. And while it's doing that, I will go back here for a second and go to our topic for today and our verse for today, which prayer is always answered. Now, our verse is James 1:5. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given to him. So according to this verse, we can always ask for wisdom from God, and he will grant our request. As you approach the new year, do you have some decisions you need to make? Most of us do. We need to do a little bit of planning for our next year. Not that we know everything that's going to happen or that God won't, intervene and point us in a different direction. But we usually take some time to, where are we headed? What are we going to do here? And maybe that is a new direction to go in this next year. Take some time and ask God. Take some time in quiet to hear him answer you. Obviously, I'm personally going to do a personal retreat next week after Christmas and take some time asking him for direction for the next year. I encourage you to, carve out a few hours to do that. Take some time also to, focus on the real reason for the season. This week. It's not just about presents. It's not just about, running around, trying to get everything done. It is about the baby born in the manger. So spend some time on that and where the baby ended up on the cross also. So next week, Facebook Live is actually going to be on Monday because of the because I'm not going to do one on Christmas Day. You want to spend time with your family. I want to spend time with my family. So we are not doing it on Christmas Day, but we will be doing one the day before. And so let's go ahead and check and see how our frittata is doing so far. Looking pretty good. Not cooked on the top, but getting pretty cooked on the bottom part. And the timer's about to turn off here. So now I'm going to actually stick this in the oven. I'm actually sticking that in the oven for 5-6 minutes or until browned on the top. And you want it to, look like it has gotten that top layer cooked. It's going to, be browning on the top. If it starts getting too brown, then obviously, it's like time to go. We're not trying to actually broil this, so I've got this on a middle rack. It's not all the way up next to the elements. It is kind of at a midpoint, but this is one of the cool things you can do with a cast iron skillet. And you'd have to have an oven-proof skillet if you didn't have a cast iron skillet to do this with. There are other ways of doing frittatas. One recipe, that I was running across doing a little research on this was actually cooking it on one side for a certain length of time and then just flipping it over in the pan. And I'm going, I hope it doesn't stick to your pan. You're dependent on it actually coming out of the pan really, really well at that point, or you're not going to be able to get it flipped over. And plus, you're trying to flip over something this size. So, I prefer to, not chance something like that actually working. So, decided I wasn't going to experiment with that. I wanted to actually do this the traditional way, which is you cook it for a little while, cooking the bottom in the normal way you would cook eggs on the stovetop, but then go ahead and stick it in, and then you're effectively baking it and getting that top part done. Now, lots of times when I am cooking eggs, I will put like a lid on it at the end if I'm cooking it on the stovetop to help get that top more done. But we will see in a few moments where that is. So finishing off my green drink for the morning. Have you had your green drink today? I usually do that drink, even if I'm having like the frittata or something else to eat for breakfast. Most of the time I go ahead and have, the green drink as well. For one thing, it gives me a serving of vegetables. And it also gives me a serving of fats because I usually have avocado in it. Got some good healthy fats. And, gives me something I can put a few supplements in if I choose, like fiber supplements, maybe some glutamine to heal your gut, whatever you're needing to take that's powdered. So it's one of my standbys that I have most days of the week. So the frittata will be done in just a minute here. I'm hoping it gets done here where I can pull it out and actually show you what it will look like when it's actually done. And as I said, I do encourage you, especially here at the beginning of the year, to take some time to spend some alone time with God. There is a lot of noise right now, whether literal noise, which there can be the literal noise too, uh, and also the just busyness of so many things going on right now, that it is a really important time to do a personal retreat. Most people don't get that, so that's why I didn't offer one to people locally this month. I decided to do one myself, but I am not trying to see if I can get somebody to go with me, because people don't always set their priorities where they should. Um, Lots of times we put priorities on, all the busyness, the tyranny of the urgent, instead of putting it on what is ultimately of most importance, which is our relationship with God. And so that's why I'm making it a priority, and actually doing an overnight retreat, which I'm going to be doing a guided retreat with some other people the beginning of February down at Patagonia Lake. So that is, if you happen to be in the area, that is something that I will be doing here in the near future. But I am going to plan on offering a few more of these online as well. Virtual retreats and local retreats. Obviously, local retreats are the best. You can do virtual, but you have to have a good location. So let me take a look and see where we're at. Looks very solid, so I'd say it's probably done. Okay, so put the camera down a bit here. So it didn't really brown a whole lot on the top. It just depends on how long you leave it. I think the cheese was making it so it didn't do that at the almond cheese. But there's our frittata and part of my breakfast. So I will see you next week. I'll post this recipe later today, and I will see you on Christmas Eve day, not on Christmas, next week with another recipe. So see you next week.